morning, I'm Paula from Chic Emporium, and today we're going to try and transform this beast in anticipation of the new IOD transfers coming. And usually I come up with my own designs, but today I'm going to be showing you how to create what so far has been the most lovely project that I have seen using these new IODs. It's been really frustrating in the UK because we haven't got them yet, but America do. And Charlotte Laurie has done an amazing job with an amazing ornate piece of furniture that started off as quite a beautiful piece of furniture, which this clearly isn't that beautiful, but I've spoken to her and got her permission to show you how to create the look that she's achieved using perhaps a bit more of a boring piece of furniture, and seeing if we can do that using some moulds and some raised stenciling and then some painting techniques over the top before we get on to layering some of the new transfers onto it. So I have heated up my radiator because the first stage is to create some mouldings, and that's my dog greeting the customers. So I've got some edging and I've got some ornate key to do. So the keyholes are going to go here, and the edgings I'm going to kind of create a churchy look here. So that's going to take a little while, then it's going to I'll show you when I'm a little bit further down the road with that. So I'll see you in a bit. Right, I thought I'd do a little walk round and show you the resin that we're using. I've got a 2-part resin and I've got a pot, and I pour a little bit of one in and a little bit of the other, use a stick to mix it up. And this is my excess pot, so any that I don't use I tip in there because you can't tip it down the sink. So I've got my little radiator. This works really well. It's a little oil radiator and it's hot, and I keep the mould on it all the time. It keeps it warm. And then I've poured it in the strip that I want. Obviously what I'm doing today is quite time consuming because I can only do one strip at a time, but we'll take you over to the project. As you can see, it's starting to come on now. We've got 2 false locks gone in. Now this is a lock as well, but what I've done is just used a little bit of clay to fill in the hole so that it looks like a trim rather than a false lock. So that's worked pretty well. And then we've drawn out our curve to try and give us a guide. And when we take it off the radiator, it's still very flexible and warm, so we're using that heat to our advantage so that we can flex it into place and then use a craft knife to cut it. So basically you can see that's the last bit that we need to do, and then all of the moulds will be done. We use this product. This is a 2-part fast activating glue. You can use obviously wood glue and masking tape to hold it in place, but this is quicker. So you put a little bit of the glue on the mould and then you spray where you're going to stick it, slap it on, and it's instant super glue. It's messy, but it's quick, and it does a job. So once we've got all the moulds on, we'll be ready for the next stage, which will probably be tomorrow. So I will come back to you and show you where we're at when we're all done with the moulding. Morning. Right, a few days has gone by since I last checked in with you, and as you can see I finished off all the kind of church mouldings and my keys, and excitingly my IODs have arrived. So I'm now ready to move on to the next stage. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I don't know if you can see that lovely turquoisey colour. I'm going to paint all of this piece in that colour, solid coat everywhere over all of the moulding. So that's pretty boring and you don't need to see that bit. But then we're going to move on to some glazing and getting these lovely IODs on. So I'll see you then. Right, so what I've done is I've painted all of it in the turquoisey blue colour, and then I have given it all a coat of sealer. The sealer stops the chalk coming away on the back of the transfer. So I've now opened the transfer up. You've got to make sure the sealer is properly dry, and I've cut the flowers up into individual flowers. Now this is a bit tricky because it's over the bump that I've got here, so I'm having to manipulate it with my fingers, but I wanted to make it fit in the arch that I've got. So it won't be exactly the same as the one that I was inspired by, but similar. So I'm basically very carefully and meticulously going over with the spatula that's provided to rub off the transfer, and I think you can probably start to see it transferring. You've got a chance to go back over any areas that aren't like that. So I'll speed up the next bit, but let you watch me transferring it on. Right, so as you can see, that was quite tricky to get off. My own fault entirely for setting it up over all of the bumps and grooves, but what I'm doing now I've got it off is going back over with my fingers, just pushing down all the loose bits so that they seal. And obviously there are places like here where there's a crack, it's broken, but I quite like the aged look about it, and I'm going to put a coat of sealer over the top of it to make sure that it all stays in place before I go ahead and put the next transfer over the top, because I don't want to rub this off. That feels like the safe plan to do. So I've got some work to do. I've got these other beautiful flowers and so on to add to the other side as well. And I'm going to just be doing that in exactly the same way as I've just showed you. So I'll come back when I'm a bit further into the transferring process. See you in a bit. Right, good morning. It's been a bit of a long journey, this piece. I've done it in bits and pieces in between lots of other bits and things that are going on in the shop. But we're coming to the end. I finished the wild botanical flowers, and I did actually use a little paintbrush in the end to fill in some of these areas. You can't even see it, but it was just where it was broken because of all the lumps and bumps that I'd put on in Moldings, and I think it tidies it up a bit. This Le Petit Rosier transfer was actually the A4 one because I'd run out of the big one, and I've managed to cut it up into sections, as you can see, and spread it out and made it look like it's kind of a lot bigger than it was, because it really was just an A4. And I was able to layer them completely over the top of each of the one behind without sealing it in between. So the last thing I've done that you haven't seen is actually I've sealed everywhere that there is a transfer, because I'm now going to do some glazes. Hello, Noodle. So I have used Art Enhancement Scumble, which is a glazing liquid that you have to mix up first because it separates, and I have used a teaspoon to decant 5 teaspoons of it and 1 teaspoon of a white chalk paint, and then I've just mixed it up. And this glaze is going to give me a little bit more open time to play around with it. So I'm not being too careful, and I'm just fairly liberally brushing it on in areas. I particularly want to pick out this lovely moulding that I used. But as you can see, I'm going over the transfer that I've used. This is going to give me some nice white shading. Now, if this was just diluted chalk paint, I'd be worried now that it was all starting to dry and that I'd run out of time. But because it's got the scumble in it, I've got a bit more time to carry on and put a bit more on. So when I've generously spread it around as such, and I might want more later, I use a damp cloth and I've literally just wet it and wrung it out to move glaze around so it won't give me any edges. It will leave white in the grooves, but it will also leave some nice subtle white shading over my drawer. Now I hope you can appreciate what that looks like on the camera. I will take some close-up photographs when I'm done, but it's really pretty. And you're not limited, although I will only be using white for this because I really like the white. You're not limited to one colour. You can let it dry and then use a second colour. So you could use a black even to give dark shades as well, but whatever colour you want, because this glaze is clear, so you can mix it with whatever colour you're working with. So I'm going to continue working on this piece in the same way with this glaze all over in different areas, wiping it back, and then I will give it a last coat of sealant over where I've glazed and the piece will be finished. But I think you'll find that all the mouldings, they've really made this very square piece look really special. I really like, and this glaze is just going to go great over this bit of moulding here, see? Because when I wipe it off, I'm going to just show you this before we clop off, and I just dab that, the white will stay in all the nooks and the grooves and really show it off. So obviously I've got some more work to do around it, and I'll carry on in the same way and then I'll show you the piece when we're all finished. Alright, see you back. Right, today's project is finally finished. This has taken far more than one day, but mainly because I've done it in bits and pieces. I've really enjoyed it. I really love the moulding that's turned a square cupboard into a more ornate shape. The key moulds have worked as well, and obviously the IOD transfers are just amazing. I love this piece. I don't think it will be around for long. Thank you for watching. Until the next time.